What's up, everybody? Thanks for tuning into the Mishmash Podcast. Today, my guest is my good friend and professional visual artist, Anthony Jensen of Jensen Artwork. What's up, Ant? How's it going, man?
What's going on, man? Thanks for having me.
Oh, dude, this is so great. I feel like this is like years in the making, at least on my side.
Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a long time, man.
I think when I started to think about podcasting and wanting to do interviews and stuff, you were one of the first ones. I may have even floated the idea to you.
I think you did, years ago. Yeah, definitely. And it's been a while since I was trying to think the last time we've even really spoken on the phone was probably like 2-3 years ago, right?
Yeah. Oh my God.
I think that was one of the last time we worked together, I think was like 2020, 2021 maybe.
Yeah,
which is crazy.
That sounds about right. But I look at that as a positive because that speaks to how in demand your services are, right? You've been doing a lot.
Yeah, it's been I've been very, 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 very busy these last like 2-3 years, definitely, especially after 2020. I feel like it's just got crazy.
So just as like a backdrop for my listeners or our viewers. Oh yeah, actually, so kind of exciting here. This is my first foray into recording video for the podcast. And it sounds like it's something new for you too, right? That you're trying to get into?
Yeah. It's the first time. First time I'm using this webcam like this. First time, it's a brand new mic. So it's all new to me right now.
Well, so I'm curious in terms of your content, right? Like you've had some really amazing video stuff recently. Oh, what was it? Was it the Monster Squad one that came out?
Yeah, man, it's my favorite. That's my favorite video that I made, and it's something that didn't do as good as I thought it would. And I realized after it's because a lot of people don't know Monster Squad. It's a smaller, most people I think like they compare it to like Goonies. Most people know Goonies more than Monster Squad. Growing up for me, like Monster Squad I love Goonies, don't get me wrong, but Monster Squad was like it for me. Frankenstein, Dracula, that was it for me. But maybe, I don't know. It didn't do as good as I thought, but that's still like my favorite. I actually still have the painting. It's right. You can actually see it right over here.
Oh,
it's like my favorite painting too. It's like my centerpiece in the studio.
Dude, I can't wait to get to the paintings, but for that video specifically, that was all you? I wasn't sure. So your brother Joe is also artistically, inclined too, right?
Yeah, he's a graphic designer and a web designer.
Right. And so, and background for you specifically, it's funny, I guess, again, there's always tangents and shit in terms of like me meandering in these conversations, but funny enough, so I knew your brother growing up. I didn't know you existed until a couple of years ago, which is hilarious. Joe was just one of those guys that I think everybody knew, whether, it was from hockey at the park or just in general.
Yeah.
But I think I kind of lost touch with a lot of the guys that were like mutual friends really until like high school. So I don't even remember how we wound up crossing paths, you and me. But we're from the same neighborhood in Brooklyn. We know the same people. We had lots of similar experiences, some of which I'm sure will come up in this conversation today. But your background, you've always been artistically inclined too, right? Like as a kid, you used to do a lot of drawing and stuff, or?
Yeah. So I've been drawing and painting since, all kids kind of, draw and paint when they're younger. It just something that stuck with me forever. And I've always taken it really serious. There was a point in time I got more involved with like music and drumming and stuff, but it was still always in the background. And then probably like 10 to 12 years ago, it really started taking it more serious and started painting every day, and really just took over my life pretty much at this point. It's just all I do. I've like no social life anymore. I'm just painting every day, 10, 12 hours a day. I have like multiple projects going on at all times and stuff. So, but I love it. So it's not really work. It's something that I don't mind giving all my time to. So
yeah, and I mean from a talent standpoint, so when we met and first worked together, you painted the opening scene for my first novel, which it's Place of Pride.
Yeah, and I think that's what I think that you were one of my like first commissions because I was a plumber in my previous life, and when I was going into art full time, I think you were like one of my first commissions that I really did. So that was awesome. That was like a cool transitioning into all this was you being my first actual commission. It was like first and second. It was like the first and second commission that I did.
Yeah, and
which was awesome.
It was a funny time for each of us because I think we were both like starting to spread those wings a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, you have flapped considerably farther, which is great. I'm always inspired by the successes that you've had and everything. And it's funny too because you mentioned music, right? And that was one of the first like funny coincidences overall in terms of growing up in Garrettson Beach. Is the first time I ever played music with someone else. It wound up being the same guy that you played music with the first time. I think it was Ethan, right?
Ethan Klein, yeah. He's like my brother growing up, basically. He was like my third, my second brother.
Yeah. So
and I played. He was like my first 2-3 bands. I think was Ethan Clyde.
That's funny. And
that's how I learned to actually play drums. Was with him playing guitar in this garage that you're seeing right now. We'd be sitting here playing guitar and drums, and that's how I kind of learned how to play it. Which is funny. I was using 2 rulers. I didn't even have drumsticks.
Oh my God, that's funny.
I had 2 rulers.
How is?
Yeah, it's so funny. I didn't know you played with Ethan Clyde. I didn't even remember that.
Yeah, so he's a year ahead of me, I think, in school. So he was already like well involved with it. I don't remember. I think I might have even played bass with him after we worked together at New Dutch. And yeah, it was Mud Shovel from Stained. Very simple. I mean, it doesn't take much to play bass. I mean, I'm biased, right, as a guitarist. I kind of lean that way. But yeah, so I just remember getting to play with them. And then there have been other like funny coincidences, people that we knew together. We actually got to do a cool event in the beach. It wasn't.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I'm trying to.
Wasn't the crisp? It was the small business. Oh man, what was it called? I forgot. The small business. Marketplace, maybe small business marketplace. That was actually I seen a photo from that, and that was like also that was like 5 years ago or something at this point, right?
I think even longer. Yeah, that was
crazy.
I wound up doing a book tour for my stuff and for the beer book that I had done. And I think that was 2017, and that was actually the first stop on it. I remember it poured like rained fucking cats and dogs, man. It was an awful day in terms of the weather, but it was a lot of fun and it was cool that we were kind of set up. I think we set up shop next to each other.
Yeah, we were sitting next to each other. Yeah,
but that was cool.
2017. Yeah.
So
years are flying by.
In terms of your output, right? I'm biased because you and I'm sure I've mentioned my friend Andre from Romania, the photographer guy. I'm pretty sure we've spoken about him a couple times.
Yeah, you showed me his work before.
So you guys have helped me achieve a dream that I've always had, right? So in the same way that you have, been artistically inclined since you were a kid, that was me with writing since I was like 7, right? I would write short stories or whatever it was. And so my dream was always to kind of have a visual representation of the stuff that I wrote. And that's kind of why I write the way that I do, is because I want to get as vivid an image in people's minds as I can. But it always falls short because it's still in your imagination. So that's why I freaked out at the chance to work with you and looking at like the output, because just to give some background, hopefully I'll find a way to like add the images to the YouTube video of this. But you did the opening scene from my first book, which was so cool, like this like really tumultuous, dark, crazy scene. You didn't just like create a map for my second book. Do you remember that? Like,
write the map.
You like like it looked. I think you like tea stained it, whatever it was. It looked like it was super duper ancient. And
I forgot. Yeah, I almost forgot about that map.
And so the first thing you did was an oil painting, right? If I'm not mistaken.
That was an oil painting. I think the map. I think I did. I'm pretty sure I used oil paint on the map as well.
I think so. And then after that, I think we shifted over to digital stuff, which
then we went digital. Yeah,
that blew my mind more than anything, because I almost thought of the skill sets as being mutually exclusive, or at least not like necessarily the same, right? Like the fact that you were able to do what you were able to do with physical media. I don't know why I didn't think it would translate to digital, but in some ways your digital stuff was even cooler because of the...
Yeah, it's funny because digital kind of working with digital made me a better oil painter in a sense. Like all the projects we did digitally, for some reason translated to oil paint and made me even a better better artist with oil paint and physical media, which is crazy. But yeah, that's what it did.
It makes sense to me though, because, I feel like anytime you do anything creatively, you kind of hit a wall at some point, you plateau a little bit. And that was me with guitar, because again, I mean, we're talking about high school. I've been playing for over 20 years at this point. And I was just content to kind of coast with that. But then once I started to pick up the piano, I've like as a motivator to sit down and actually like try to learn stuff and learn, just different things. I was taking what I knew from guitar and then trying to translate it, right? So like if there was a song I knew how to play on guitar for 20 years, I would say, all right, how would I play this on the piano? Learn it. And then I started to do it in reverse. So I would learn stuff on the piano and then try to figure out how to play it on guitar. And it actually made me a better guitarist. So I can kind of understand, how the two seemingly disparate things kind of came together for you.
Yeah, I guess they all kind of work with each other, right? And they kind of get all different aspects of what you're doing together.
Yeah.
It's funny you said that. I actually want to. It's something I've wanted to do is learn piano for the last few years, and I think I'm gonna give a go at it pretty soon. I have the piano, and I think I'm gonna finally try it.
So
I've kind of been out of touch with music for a while. I was a drummer for a while, but piano is something on my to-do list definitely soon.
Oh, and I'm sure you'd pick it up with no problem too. Again, I think some people just are, they just have a knack. Not that you're going to be busting out Chopin, straight out of the gate, but still. I'm glad we're talking about music because one of the things I wanted to ask you was how much does music play a role in your art in terms of like when you're creating? Like, do you listen to stuff? Do you find any inspiration in it?
It used to be a bigger part. I feel like. I've been watching a lot of movies. So I don't know if you've seen. I just posted a video of my setup. My new thing is collecting VHS tapes, which is ridiculous. I know it sounds ridiculous.
Not with vinyl being in resurgence. Yeah, why not VHS? Sure.
Yes, it's something I laughed at so much. I've seen the documentary of people who collected them like maybe 2 years ago, and I was like, these people are ridiculous. Like, why are they watching VHS tapes? And then I found my old VHS tapes in the attic, and then I actually bought an old TV for the video, the Monster Squad video. I set up the room to look old with the old TV and stuff, and so I had that old TV. I had the VHS player and the tapes, and it was about a year ago I started watching them as I'm painting, and that's become like so I'll just randomly put like random VHS tapes as I'm working and stuff. But I do still listen to music, but it's a little smaller. Takes a little bit smaller of a role. My music taste is so all over the place these days too, man. Like, I can go from listening to like Metallica to Dr. Dre to Weezer to like Tears for Fears. Like I could just jump all. Like if you looked at some of my playlists, sometimes I look at it and I'm like, what's wrong with me, man? But I guess it's not a big role in my art, but it's definitely still there. I definitely still listen to it from time to time, especially if like I get tired of listening to a certain podcast or watching something. I'll put on music. That's always my like fallback kind of. But it's taken a little bit smaller of a role, but it's still always there. I love music, man. All kinds of music. Maybe except for country music, but I'm a Johnny Cash fan too. So maybe that's not exactly true. But I think that's the only genre that I can't really listen to that much.
Right.
That's really it.
Well, so it's funny for me. I have to listen to music every day. Like even though music,
yeah, me too. I listen to it every day. Yeah, it's still there. Maybe, yeah.
But like
when I'm working out, when I'm walking around, it's there. It's always there. Yeah.
But just creatively too. Like I need it to serve. I don't know. For me, at least, it helps me to get into the right headspace. So I have like, I think I mentioned this guy Adrian von Ziegler, who's like a composer of it's instrumental music. But like when we were doing the more fantasy oriented stuff. Because that was outside of my like comfort zone, really, like that was nothing that I had really written before. And so I needed to kind of like feel like I was in the mountains, in the forest, and wherever it was. And so his stuff just kind of like helped with that, which I think is cool. But dude, I mean, you're talking to a fellow eclectic music fan here. So I don't think there's anything wrong with either of us. And on the country music front, yeah, no. So in terms of modern pop country music, it's the closest spiritual successor, I guess, to that era of music where, again, like every song just had more quality to it. Like you can actually hear guitar riffs. There's solos. Yeah. It's different. I don't want to sound like that old man, like.
No, that's exactly how I feel when we're talking about this, especially when I was saying like I don't listen to new music, and I guess I do in a sense, but I'm a lot more inclined to like put on something from the 60s, 70s, 80s, like 90s. But yeah, I got to check that out. What is it called? What's the playlist you were talking about?
It's called
the kind of
the Highway is the station.
The Highway.
And actually if you look it up on the app, I think it's the Highway Top Hits is the
What's
name
that
of the
on?
channel. On Sirius XM.
Oh, Sirius. I don't have Sirius, but I'll check out.
Even if you go to YouTube, you could just look up the highway, top 30 count or whatever. But none of the songs really are like, I don't want to call it too country because that sounds messed up, but but yeah, like that, whatever it is that causes us not to like that older country stuff, it's not.
Yeah, I don't
here.
know what it is about it. It's just too. I can't pinpoint exactly what I don't like about, like, especially like Garth Brooks music and all that stuff. Like Johnny Cash, I can listen to all day,
Yeah,
and
well,
you can argue that that's real, country music. But
yeah,
I don't know. You could go to like the '90s country music, and I'm like, it's not good. But I'm gonna check this out
yeah.
definitely.
So Morgan Wallen, thinking about you, I think so apostrophe no G, is like his newest single, and it creeps me out because it's about him cheating with this girl, and my youngest son like cannot stop singing the song, and he's like, "Dad, I love the lyrics." I'm like, "Dude, you better not understand the lyrics. Like, what the fuck? Not good." But
How old is your son now?
he's 9, so
I know.
I got a 13, 11, and 9-year-old. So next year,
Wow.
oh man, yeah, it's
Wow.
it's crazy. They were so little. Funny enough, I remember bringing in the map to my daughter's first grade class. I think the map that you had made.
I was gonna say they were so little. Like, yeah, I guess that's 5 years ago now. I remember you showing me pictures and stuff, and they were like babies.
Yeah, no, I know,
Damn, man.
and dude. So now my oldest is going to be going into high school. Like, holy shit!
My God.
I that's just great. No, wait, where did you go to Sheepshead or Murrow? Where did you go?
I went to Sheepshead, but I dropped out in ninth grade to get my GED. So yeah, I wasn't in high school too long.
Well, listen, if you were in Sheepshead, I mean, dude, didn't they have their
Well,
own
you know what's
police
funny? I was
precinct?
in Sheepshead, and then I got transferred to Madison, and at that point, I had already like started working as a plumber, and I was just like, I'm done. I'm just gonna make money, and that was probably a bad choice. But I eventually got my GED and stuff, and if I could go back, I'd probably change that. I'd probably stay in high school and go to college and stuff, which I didn't really do.
Yeah, I mean, listen,
But
that's a whole separate rabbit hole that we could jump down. But
yeah,
one of the things, especially looking back at my high school experience, like I was the opposite. I was in all honors classes all the time. We were in a
yeah.
friggin' bubble.
Where'd
It
you go
was
again?
Madison. I went to,
Madison.
but I was there
Nice.
the 4 years that like they cleaned up the gang trouble and stuff. So I lucked out that again being in like that bubble. But in the years since, I've worked with so many kids. I specifically have worked with the kids that were at like the bottom of the barrel in terms of like academics and everything. Definitely not
Mhm.
on a college track. And what sucks it to me is like college doesn't have to be for everybody. It shouldn't be for everybody. First of all, it's expensive as all hell. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
man.
it's just
Yeah,
there's like the world runs on plumbers and mechanics
yeah.
and
Mhm.
HVAC techs. There's so much stuff there. Like I wish that the way it was set up was by freshman or sophomore year, right? By the end of freshman year or sophomore year, you pretty much have a good idea of whether or not you're Harvard bound, Kingsborough bound, or not
Mhm.
going to what do you call it, going to college at all. And I
Yeah,
wish that starting in like junior or senior year, in the same way at college you would be beginning work on your major, like there should be options for kids to take up trades. And I know it's harder because, like Grady is the only school I
absolutely.
could think of that was like vocational, right? But like,
Yeah, Grady. Wow. Yeah, my bad.
but
I
imagine
had a
if
few friends that went there.
now, granted, you apprenticed with your dad, right? Or was it somewhere
Yeah.
else? So that was a
No,
little
yeah.
bit,
So I started working when I was working like every summer. I've basically been doing plumbing since I was a little kid. Every summer since maybe I was like 8, 9, he'd have me cleaning fittings and going on jobs with him. So like when I was 16, around that age, he gave me a choice. He said, you can work with me and make money. You can keep going, you drop out of school, work with me, make money, or you can, stay with school and do all that. And of course, I was like, I want to make money. 16 years old. I was like, forget school. Not that I was bad at it. I had good test scores, and I just wanted, at that point, it was just something I wanted to do, was just start making money. And I seen myself doing plumbing, and I did plumbing that for 12 years after that, until it just like ate me alive, and I was just ready to give it up.
yeah.
Really.
Well, again, it was just a part of your path, right? In the sense
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
because I remember you kind of struggling with like taking that leap. Which, by the way, I mean,
Oh, it was tough, man. It was a tough one. It was tough.
the balls. So I'm kind of in a similar spot now where I've been chickening out of actually trying to like complete the real dream when it comes to writing and go and
Mhm.
try to get an agent and an actual contract and have a writing career instead of just doing it sort
Mhm.
of on my own. And so I admired the balls that it took you to really kind of just commit to that and say, no, man, I'm doing this full time. And I mean, for what it's worth, like I do want to get to your specific work and like some of the stuff you've got behind you, the windows. is the number one thing I'm going to get to in a second. But it's got to feel, you got to feel vindicated to some extent, just based on some of the awesome things that have happened since you made that decision, right? I mean, you've had the number
it's
one
definitely
thing.
been a hard, long, hard road basically. And I'm still on that road trying to, go forward with it. But yeah,
Well,
I'm happy. I just wish, I kind of wish I did it a little earlier. I kind of did it. I think it was 28. I think I was near, and that's really why I decided. I was like, I'll be 30 in 2 years. If I don't try this now, when am I going to be able to do it? And I just took that leap. I saved up money, and bro, for the first year, I didn't maybe have made a few $100s, and I ran through all my money, and it was like the last. I think I had like a few $1,000s left to live on, and the last, I had basically maybe like a month, maybe not even left of my money to live on. I knew it's like, all right, maybe I should start looking at the plumbing. And at the very end of that month, that's when like you got in touch with me with the commission, and then another person got in touch with me, then another person got in touch with me, and then it just rolled. It just kept rolling to the point where I've been busy since then, and that was, I don't know, 5 years ago or so. So I lucked out in that sense, but it gets scary. It still gets scary sometimes. Sometimes commissions don't come in. Some a painting doesn't sell like you thought it would. So it's work, and I'm still learning, man. That's all it's all about. You just gotta keep pushing forward and keep learning, and that's what it's all about. It's all about the journey, right? One day, hopefully, I'll be in a gallery, a rich, old, fat artist, smoking a cigar, thinking about the 5 to 6 years that I struggled and kept pushing forward and did it. Hopefully, we'll see what happens. I hope.
No, man,
that's the idea.
I'm glad you said that, because that's, so anybody that's listening hopefully is inspired by what you just said, because that's been what's kind of lit the fire under my ass for the last couple of years too, is like seeing somebody who's done it and has done it successfully. Like the two things that jump to mind in terms of like oh shit moments, or what I would imagine were oh shit moments, were some of like the clientele that you've had, right? Because it's one thing to sell stuff locally. It's another thing even to just kind of like branch out to say like your Facebook friends or Instagram. But you've had at least one notable client that I can think of, and I'm sure others that had to have like kind of blown you away, right?
Yeah, I had one big client that really, even though I didn't know him at the point, but when I looked on his page and realized who he was, I was kind of blown away. And that was George Kittle from the 49ers. Got in touch with me and liked the Joker painting. This was 2020. This was like 3 years ago.
That was the Joaquin Phoenix one, right?
No, that was the Heath Ledger hanging out. It was the
oh, right, okay.
Heath Ledger hanging out of the window of the police car, which is still one of my favorite paintings. The part of me is like, because you fall in love with these paintings, but I fall in love with these paintings when I'm painting them. It's like sometimes it's hard getting rid of them. And that one I had for like a good year before he got in touch with me. And it went into my request. This is George Kittle from 49ers. I don't know. I don't watch football. I'm not a big football guy. Not a big sports guy, really. So he gets in touch with me, and it goes to my request, and I don't answer him for like 2 weeks.
Oh, my God.
And what wound up happening was the guy that we're mutual friends with, he runs Wrestling for Sale. Friends with him, and winded up sending my painting to George Kittle like on Instagram, and he loved it. So he gets in touch with me. 2 weeks go by, and I messaged him back like 2 weeks later, like, dude, I look at his page, I see like hundreds of thousands of followers. He's a 49er. He's like, I start telling my friends, like, this guy George Kittle got in touch with me, and everybody's like, what? Why are you saying this? So like, why are you so like calm about this? It's like one of the biggest players right now. I was like, yeah, I don't even know who he is. I looked at his page, and he has all these followers and stuff. And so I got back in touch with him, and he was so cool. What a down-to-earth guy. He's like, dude, don't worry about it. We're all busy. I was like, dude, I'm so sorry. He went to my request. I didn't see it, blah, blah. And so, yeah, I gave him the price. He bought the painting. And that was like the biggest painting at the time that I sold. So I was like panicking, trying to figure out how I'm going to get it to him and stuff, which now that was like a good learning curve. What a learning curve, though, right? With George Kittle. Like, right. I could have messed it all up.
Oh, my God, seriously.
Oh, God, I was so nervous thinking about it, man. But yeah, everything worked out. He likes the painting. It's just cool thinking like he has, his friends and family, and I'm sure all the teammates, like going into his house and seeing something that I painted. It's like, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. experience.
That's
Definitely crazy.
that's what I think of every time I think about that situation, because it's, the fact that I have the first painting you did for me up on the wall. It's something I try to point out to everybody when they come here, and so I've thought of that before, where I'm like, man, like I wonder who has seen it. You know what I mean? Who's walked past it? Even if he doesn't like point it out and give us backstory, like you said, it's still that's just
crazy.
it's insane. And then so that was a sale, and then in terms of events, didn't you have something like really cool at a museum or some kind of like showing?
Yeah, no. Right now I'm in it's my second show with Sugar Mid Gallery that I'm doing. I have a painting there at a museum. I'm trying to think. I don't think so. Oh wait, no, yeah. So I did a museum. So I did it was in Greece, and I forget the museum name, but yeah, it was a part of their 12 by 12 inch. I forgot exactly the name of it, but yeah, I did a 12 by 12 inch painting that got sent to them, and they have all the. It's still hung up there, so they have like every year they put more and more up. And I forgot what the name of it. It was in Greece, and it's a family-owned museum. I'm forgetting the name off the top of my head. Like I said, I'm so bad with names. My memory is shot at this point. But yeah, that was pretty cool. That was also I think that was 2 years ago, 2 or 3 years. That might have been 2020 was a crazy year for me. Like everybody hates it, they hated the pandemic and stuff, but there wasn't much different for me. Like I did at the end of it, I was going crazy, like not being able to leave. So I like going to the movies. I like going to Manhattan and stuff, meeting my brother and stuff. But there was a point, like I was just working so much and so many cool things was happening that like I wasn't even thinking about the pandemic, really.
Right. And I think there were certain industries that got whacked like super hard, right? Yeah. Service industries and everything. Yeah. But I
think creatives thrived in that, right?
Absolutely. But for you guys specifically,
they were thriving.
Like visual artists, right? Like I think what happened, and I mean, I can attest to this too here. Like I've never been big, like, dude, you know what it's like. In Gerritsen Beach, a yard, you're lucky if you have a few blades of grass, right? In the back. It's all concrete and shit. Mm-hmm. The lots are super, super tiny. Like, so I just, when we got the house here in New Jersey, like, I didn't give a shit about having a lawn it was nice to have the space, but I'm saying in terms of like, there are people that are like anal about, the upkeep and everything and like, whatever. We didn't think anything of it. But during the pandemic, we started looking around too, because again, right, you're in the house every day, like you're looking at the same shit. And so we started to think about what could we do differently outside. And I think a lot of people had the same experience inside, and they were probably like, oh man, we'd love to get some artwork or get something to put up on the wall.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so I think that worked out.
People had a lot of, extra income too with the stimulus checks. Yep. They were like, oh, an extra $1,200. Let me buy a painting or something, which was, it sucked. Don't get me wrong. I know the pandemic was crazy for a lot of people, but for me, that was creatively like that's when it really came back, because before that, it's funny. I was training I was going to become a tattoo artist. At the beginning of 2020, I was training with my friend Joe, and it's still something that he tries to get me to do. It's still something that's, I could possibly do somewhere down the line. So if the pandemic didn't happen, man, who knows? I might have been a tattoo artist, and not that I would put painting on the, the back pedal, but like it would have been secondary to tattooing basically right now. So it would have been a totally different life. But then 2020 happened, and then I sold to George Kittle, and then, commission after commission and selling stuff. And that kind of rebooted me, kind of like just gave me some extra energy into everything kind of that year.
Yeah.
So, which is crazy. If that didn't happen, who knows, who's to say like where I would be right now, honestly. But
right. And
it's crazy.
Dude, that energy is clearly not going to waste. I can't let this go unnoticed though. Like the humility.
I feel like I've stepped it up since 2020, like just because of how much more I paint now, like just how fast I can paint, how accurate I can get things done, my confidence in it, everything is just keeps every year gets a little better. Hopefully I'm just starting. Hopefully I'm just still at the, at the bottom of where I'm going to go. Hopefully. But
I mean, it feels that way from the outside. I'm just laughing at the humility, not like laughing, blown away by the humility of the fact that like I'm picturing Greece, right? All the like the statues, the sculptures, like it's sort of like an artistic mecca, and just nonchalantly like, yeah, my stuff's there too, like alongside all this stuff, which is great. But that's
I was hoping they would actually. I really like the painting. It's another painting. I feel like this with a lot of my paintings. I was like hoping they would send it back to me in a way, but it's cool to have it still there in a way. It's pretty cool to know that it's going to be hanging up there for, I don't know how long they're going to keep, because I'm sure they're going to keep getting, every year they do the show and they just they're filling up like the whole wall. So who knows how long it'll be there, but yeah, it's cool. It's definitely a cool feeling.
Well, it's just a shame that things fell off with Terrence, right? Because then you could have at least gotten them all scanned. Remember him? Oh my God.
Oh man, Terrence. Yeah, man. I used him up until 2021, I think, 2 years ago. Terrence. I still actually no. I was gonna say I still use him for my business cards, but I found a great site online for my prints and my business cards, so I don't use them at all. He was charging me a lot. Like I noticed, like I would look to other companies. I was like, I can get stuff like half the price. Why am I? And then of course I would have to like beef up how much I sell prints, and then that's like
Yeah.
I'd rather get them cheaper, sell them cheaper, move them quicker, have people have them easier. You know what I mean? So I had a good relationship with them, but I had to kind of had to step away from them.
Yeah.
Even with the business cards, because I got business cards made from the same place, which is catprint.com, which is also their awesome company to get prints from and stuff. Actually, I'm looking into now and actually I'm really would like to get a printer for myself that I can do my own prints. I think that's the next step. I think really. I would like an in-house printing, and that would be great.
Yeah,
just make them on demand.
Hell yeah! I mean, that would cut back on costs tremendously. And I totally forgot about.
Well, first it would be a bulk cost of buying the printer and learning it and everything, but I'll have that for forever. So
yeah,
something I'm looking into now.
And Prince,
if I have the room, as you can see, so I posted a video of my space now, and I just have so much stuff here that I don't even know if I'd be able to fit a printer in here, but I'd figure it. I'd definitely figure it out.
Yeah. So all right. So I finally want to jump into the specifics, especially in terms of what's over your left shoulder there. But prints wise, I forgot that I actually have my oldest son has your baby Groot. He bought that from that event in Garrettson Beach, and it has one of your business cards. I think it was the Captain America one. If you remember
Captain America, the first two, Captain America and Batman, I think.
Yeah.
I have like 5 more now over there somewhere.
Which is great. But so in terms of your artistic output, right? I don't know what impresses me more. I love your original stuff. And I mean, I guess I'm biased towards that because I feel like that really unleashes a lot of your creativity. Because the way I look at visual artistry, right? Especially for a professional like you, is you're constrained only by your technical ability and your imagination, and your technical skill is just ridiculous, right? Like the way you're able to,
I appreciate it, man.
Have you bring stuff to life in just these unbelievable ways. And so it's cool. Like I know you're a big wrestling guy, Macho Man, specifically, and then
80s, 90s wrestling.
Yeah.
All about it.
The Ultimate Warrior was always my guy, Bret Hart, which I'm
actually doing an Ultimate Warrior plan. I plan on doing an Ultimate Warrior painting in the next, right after this month. Because October, I usually keep it only horror. I only do horror painting. A lot of the paintings I've been doing is horror, but the next painting right after October ends, I'm doing this awesome Ultimate Warrior piece that you're definitely gonna like if you like Ultimate Warrior.
Dude, I can't wait. I mean, it's funny, right? Hogan was always the big one that everybody loved. I was never big into him. Bret Hart was my number one. I liked
Hogan, but growing up, my brother's favorite was Ultimate Warrior, and we would tie the strings around our arms and run around the house, clothesline each other. So Ultimate Warriors are more colorful. To me, I'm more of a Ultimate Warrior and a Randy Savage guy through and through, I think.
Yeah, 100%. And actually, so what's cool is you capture, the essences of those guys, especially Macho Man. And then I'm always amazed by the creativity in terms of your backgrounds, right? So it's one thing to just like physically paint Macho Man, right? But then you'll do all kinds of like really cool stuff where like the background itself just pops and looks so, I don't know, vibrant and energetic. It's really, really cool.
Thanks, man. What comes into play with that is the digital, because I'll mess with different patterns and different colors. I'll on the reference with digital. So that's where it kind of beefed up. Digital art kind of beefed up my oil painting skills and stuff too, because now I can test stuff before actually doing it. Because you put down a color with oil paint, you have to wait a few days before it dries, and you have to redo it. Just having that digital aspect that I can test stuff out in the last 5-6 years has really brought me up to the point that I am now too. Even with references, I use a lot of the digital stuff that I do is reference. So I'll draw something out digitally, see what works, see what doesn't work, mess around with it, and then I'll paint it, which, it takes time at first, but then it makes the whole process a lot easier after that, because everything's figured out. You don't have to worry about it.
And I remember that being the first major expenditure that you had once you kind of jumped off it was a tablet, right?
It was a tablet. I still have it. It's still, was it 5? Yeah, it's 5 years ago. It's still running strong. It's
So
still going good.
so just because I'm curious in terms of your, the graphic design and the digital art, what do you use any specific programs or like what is it that
Yeah, I
you
use uh, Adobe Photoshop. I don't really use it. If I'm doing graphic design, I'll use Illustrator. But for the art, mostly Photoshop, mostly. And Adobe for the videos, all I use is Adobe Pro, and I'm getting into After Effects. Like, so the Vecna painting that I'm doing coming up, I'm gonna make a special video for Halloween, and the plan is to kind of use After Effects. So After Effects, you can add like cool effects to videos and stuff. Does a lot of stuff, but I don't really know how to use it. I'm gonna have to take some kind of tutorial because the video I kind of want going in and out from the upside down and here. So like
Oh
I'll be
man.
painting, and so I already looked to see how you could do the effect of that, but that's what I'm kind of learning now. So I'm always like, again, I'm always learning different things. You have to kind of, even with the vector painting, I'm also going to do sculpting on that, which is going to be the first. So that's a big thing too.
I
So I'm gonna add the Stranger Thing vines coming out of the window. So this vector painting kind of steps up from the rest of them. I'm trying to like move forward and kind of build out more and more because I would love to. I've never sculpted, by the way. This is gonna be the first time I've ever tried it, but I feel like that's something I like to incorporate with frames and kind of add a 3D aspect to my work. I've always kind of liked like thinking of trying to do that. So I think this is the perfect painting to try with the what could be easier than vines. You know what I mean? I'm sure it's not going to be easy, but vines probably a lot easier than me trying to sculpt like a hand or something
right.
like that. But yeah, so that's a lot of plans with this Vecna painting. Like what you've seen, what I just posted yesterday is like I'd say about 60% done, maybe not
Oh my
even,
god. And
maybe 50.
it already looks so sick. And wait, do you want
Yeah, it
to
looks so good already, man. I have it right back of me. I just keep staring at it. That's what
it's
that's what I'll be working on for the rest of the weekend.
but for the viewers, which is so weird to say, right? I'm so used to saying listeners. You want to flash a shirt just so people could see it.
Oh yeah,
We had it in the
there you
pregame.
go.
There we go. Yeah, dude. So
Got to represent the Hellfire Club.
so it's funny because we've just bounced around so much, which is totally my fault. But I told you that's how it goes
That's
with
all
this.
right.
The original idea for this episode, or what I wanted to sort of center the discussion on, was Halloween, right? Like this is my
Mhm.
favorite time of year,
My
October
favorite too,
specifically,
man. I love it.
and it's cool because one of the I don't know, I guess commonalities between us was we share a lot of the same interests in terms of music, but also in terms of like horror movies, horror
Yep.
writing, all that kind of stuff. And so, again, I mentioned this earlier about being biased. I'm skewed more towards your original stuff because I feel like that takes the constraints off of whatever you're doing, right? Like you can do whatever you
Mhm.
want with it. It shows your imagination, which was the point I was trying to get to before. But the I don't know, in terms of like the established content, right? Like whether it's Vecna and Stranger Things or Pennywise, which is clearly my favorite, like your horror line of stuff, as much as the wrestling stuff is just ridiculous, dude, the horror stuff is just on another level entirely. And I wanted
That's
to,
what I really have been going towards is more the horror,
yeah.
and it's become my favorite thing to do.
And so
I love it.
my wife is going to be so stoked that I'm finally going to get to ask you about this because we were blown away by the first few like windows that you posted. How the
Which
hell
was Jason. I think did
Yes,
the first
right.
one. Yeah.
So for anybody listening, Anthony has done so. It's you walk us through it. So it's actual like you're painting on an actual window pane itself, right?
So yeah, I'll give you a little funny backstory to it. I found these windows maybe like, man, I've had them for so long. I'm going to say like 7 to 8 years. I had these old windows in my garage, and I don't know if you ever see High Fidelity with John Cusack?
No.
No. Okay. So there's a part in that movie where he's with this woman, and she has in her apartment a wall like a divider made up with windows. And I always thought so cool. Like when I'd love to do that in my apartment. So I started at plumbing jobs. If the contractor was there throwing away old windows, I would get them and I was stockpiling them. I had like 5, 6 of them, and they were just sitting there for years. I never obviously didn't do the divider, which I'm happy about. I didn't, and they were just sitting there for like I don't know 5 to 7 years. And I guess it was about 3 years ago. I looked at it. Was it three? Yeah, it was about three. I think it was 2020 as well. I think, which is crazy. Yeah. So I looked at the window and I was like, wouldn't it be cool to have a horror character staring through that window at you, making it look like he's standing outside your window. And the first one, obviously, I had to do was Jason. And that blew up. That I got like 300,000 views on TikTok from that, and that's what really boosted
Wow.
me up on TikTok and got a lot of my followers. And then after that, I did Michael Myers. I mean, I don't even know how many I've done at this point. Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, all the big ones. Exorcist, The Shining. Damn, I've done so many of them at this point. But yeah, it all started from me just having these old windows, being bored, and I was like, you know what, Halloween's coming up. It's October. I was like, let me paint a horror character because before that, I really wasn't. I love horror, but I just wasn't a big part of my. I was doing more like comic characters and Star Wars and all that stuff. And I'm so happy that I started. I love horror, and just to yeah, just to be able to paint all of my favorite characters on these windows is like I love it. I just love it.
Yeah, no,
So it's
and
a great thing.
it's even just conceptually, right? Like if you had made a window frame, let's say digitally, that still was just such a cool concept to me. Like, but then
You
the
know what I'm
fact that
doing next? Actually, not to sorry to cut you
no,
off.
no, go for it.
Is I'm gonna try mirrors. I'm gonna try. That's the next step. I'm gonna do a Candyman
Oh man,
horror mirror, which is gonna be something. There's another thing is that's why I want to get used to the sculpting because I want his hand coming out of the mirror with the hook. So this is
that's
kind of this
crazy.
vector is kind of building up to that. I don't know how many I don't know how many more I can even do. I don't even know who I have left to paint, but oh, American Werewolf in London is probably one of my next ones too. I think. But I want his hand coming like the werewolf's hand coming through the windows. So like sculpting, and that's why I'm like bringing up with the vector thing is I would love to add because it's cool to have a horror character staring through your window. Thinking about like, all right, what if this horror character is breaking through the window? That's like the next step of like having these paintings kind of come to life. And I think that's why I want to step it up with the sculpting and stuff. I think that's the next. This is how the windows are going to evolve next. I think is a sculpting and trying to make them a little more 3D
And
in a sense.
it's such a brilliant stroke there. And in terms of like doing something, let's say in like, Manhattan or whatever, right? Like if you had a gallery exhibition, holy shit. Can you imagine how cool that would be?
Oh,
Like,
man.
especially
Oh, man.
to be able to
That's
kind
the
of like
dream.
listen, what you've accomplished so far is impressive, but I totally agree with you. Like this is just the beginning of it. So that kind of thing.
Yeah, hopefully, yeah.
I know right before the pandemic, I think we were starting to look into Comic-Con and trying to like do a table together or something
Yeah.
there. Maybe someday.
Comic-Con
for,
is so hard now, man. It's
oh
so
yeah.
much money.
Oh,
It's so hard to get in there.
Yeah.
Thinking about doing smaller ones, smaller conventions. So eventually my brother just moved up to Beacon, New York,
Oh, nice.
and they have a lot of we're thinking about kind of following that because like I told you, we had a flood here last week, and like we were right by the water. It's about what we went to Sandy about 10, 12 years ago, and like it's about that time like we're gonna start getting more water here and stuff, and we're thinking about moving to Beacon, and in that area they do a lot of smaller Comic-Con conventions and stuff. So I think that would be cool, like horror conventions and stuff like that. I think that's going to be my next step of getting a booth and trying that out. Because I'm doing the gallery thing now. I'm in one gallery, and then I have a show, all in California, by the way. These two shows are in California,
Oh, cool.
which sucks for me because I have to ship them. But I'm in Sugarman Gallery for a Michael Myers show. And then I had a tattoo artist get in touch with me about being in his opening, like he's opening a shop up in California, and he has like people. His clients like Post Malone. I seen him have, and he's gonna have like this big clientele there, which is pretty cool. And I'm sending the Frank painting and the Crypt Keeper painting there.
Oh, nice.
So that's another show. But in California, I can't find any like horror show galleries in New York for some reason. Maybe I'm just missing them. But I found that most of the pop art and horror show kind of like galleries are in California, which doesn't really work well for me. So my next thing is probably just doing the conventions. I think horror conventions is the way to go. And who knows? Maybe eventually open up my own horror pop art gallery.
Yeah, and I mean, there's definitely some along the East Coast because I remember looking into it again pre-COVID. In terms of like, I don't know if it was Horror Con specifically. There were a couple different ones. Again,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I think there was one
There's a
down
few
in
of
like
them.
DC or whatever. But it's funny. The only thing I think of with Beacon is the Dia Beacon, and like at the time we went in college, and like, dude,
Oh yeah.
it was such.
I just went there on actually maybe a few months ago for the first time.
I was not evolved enough as a person to appreciate what they had there and like the stuffiness and everything. Although I'll have to show you, I'll shoot over a picture.
It confused me too, man. I was looking around like, what? It's a piece of metal.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's a piece of metal on the floor.
It was something else. But I
Not
got
my kind of art exactly, but I get it.
But I
Listen,
still,
everybody has their thing, man.
I think I had like a disposable camera or whatever, and I remember getting a picture of my buddy Derek in the window, and like it was just, I don't know, it was just really funny. Like that to me, that was the best art I saw was that stupid photo. But no, it's crazy, and
Yep.
like in terms of the horror like inspirations and stuff, like I know you're also like a big '80s nostalgia guy too, right? Ghostbusters and
Yeah,
that kind of
80s,
stuff.
90s, man. Yeah, that's another thing I'm working on now is well, that's what kind of I'm going to lean more towards in the future. Not to say that I'm ever going to stop, these window paintings and pop art, but I'm leaning kind of towards original artwork. Right now, I'm working on a huge painting. I'll try to send you some pictures of it's a Ghostbusters Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle mashup, and it's of a
Oh,
kid on a train pointing out, and in the skyline you see Krang and Stay Puft Marshmallow fighting. And really, the basis of the whole painting, I'm actually going to make a series of it, is basically kids um, imagining their favorite characters come to life, like kind of like the imagination of a kid, because that's kind of where for me, like that's my creativity really started. So it's kind of a look on like kids daydreaming of seeing like things come to life that are pretty much impossible. But and I have like three paintings planned for that. I have the first one I'm working on now. The name of it is Make Believe with make scratched out.
oh, I like
So
it.
it's just believe. So that's what I'm going to be working on mostly. I got like over 100 hours. It's probably like 200 hours between creating the reference for it, and that's my next thing is conceptual original, more original art, not exactly like fully original, but using aspects of pop culture and 80s, nostalgia, and making original art based off of that. I think that's kind of what I'm going to go down a little bit more in the next. I think that's my next like step as an artist. But not like I said, not to say that I'm ever going to stop like painting horror and all the stuff that I love. Like even if I'm working on something original that's taking most of my time, I'm probably going to be working on like a horror window or something like that on the side just because I love it so much.
No, that's cool, man.
But
I'll have to tap you for. So I'm doing something similar writing wise. The next project, I just finished my first like standalone novel, which is young adult literature. Not at all what I expected going into this. So I'm like sort of terrified of like going down that path with that. But I guess sort of like midway between what I've done before and what I just did, it's going to be it's kind of like again like you and I seem to like the hybrid stuff, right? Where there's like
I
crossovers
love it.
of
I
all
love
different
that.
stuff, and
I like
so
that since I was a kid.
yeah,
I just love all that. I don't
yeah,
know what it is.
same. So for I'm going to do a story that has sub stories within it. So it's basically these two kids that go to visit this grandmother that they never met in Romania, and clearly you could tell who I was collaborating with on this, but basically she has this book that looks like it's like a book of fairy tales, and so
Yes, I think you mentioned this to
oh, I think
me
it did, yeah.
before. You've been working on this for a little bit.
No, it was just in the concept phase, but now I'm actually like going to get
Okay.
jumping on
Okay.
it.
Yeah, I think I remember you mentioning something about that.
Yeah, so
That's so cool though.
each story in the book will sort of read like its own like little fairy tale or whatever. And there's some twists and stuff to it. So I was trying to see about like just getting some sort of visual for like each one, because a lot of it's just prototypical stuff. You've got your werewolf, you've got your witch, and just different things that are from like authentic Romanian folklore, which I thought would be pretty cool.
It's kind of like an anthology series almost in a sense, right?
Almost, yeah. So I mean,
I
I have
love
no
that.
idea how
It's my
long.
favorite. Some of my favorite kind of horror is anthologies.
But I'll have to tell you in a second off air, like, because there's like a bigger twist with it. It's not just like, oh, these stories or whatever. And I think the twist is the sale.
I'm having a good time just talking. This is definitely a cool experience.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I can't believe it's Friday. These weeks go by so quick, dude. It's crazy.
Yeah,
It
well,
is.
I'm always amazed by how much time you're able to put in. Like, you were talking about 100 hours into one thing. I forgot what the total
Maybe
was.
even more, man.
Yeah.
Maybe even more than that. Yeah, they go by so quick though, but I love it so much, and I get into this I forgot what it's called, like a state where time doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm sure you go through it with writing, where like it's all you start at like a time, and all of a sudden you look at the clock and it's like, how was I here for 5 hours already? Like what just happened? Like it felt like a half hour. It's crazy. It's
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, being
But
in
I
the
love
zone.
it. I love it.
And
And in zone, yeah, the zen state of just creating.
I wish it happened more often than it does, but when you get into that, it's unbelievable. Like I remember looking at the clock twice, thinking like 5 minutes passed, and it was 40 minutes one time, and then like 2 hours. Just some absurd, absurd thing.
That's when you get like the best work done. It's just when you're not, everything else is just not even there. And it happens to me, honestly, like we were talking before, I don't listen to music. That'll happen mostly when I'm just have like a good playlist on and I just like zone out for, could be like 5 hours. All of a sudden I'm like, what happened? What just happened? Podcast too, I'm trying to get into is I'm a big paranormal guy. I love the paranormal, ghosts, UFOs, Sasquatch. Is Beliefful. I don't know if you ever heard them. You ever
no.
If you're into that stuff, I think you are. I think we met at the bar. We were talking about all that stuff, right? That was the last time I seen you, I think.
Oh my God, dude, we had so many crazy stories, and that was one of the things that I thought was cool about like this time of year specifically is like we've each had such strange shit happen, like and just in terms of like I remember the one with the door open, the what do you call it when you guys were all sitting together, like that was I'm trying to think of what the hell where you were. It was in the beach somewhere.
Everything was in the house that I grew up in, and because it's definitely a haunted place. There was a point where we were all sitting on the couch watching a movie, and a black shadow just ran down the stairs and out the door, and we thought it was my brother. And for like an hour, it was the middle of the winter, and it was freezing. So I get up and I'm like, what the hell? Why the hell did he leave the door open? I call him. He's like, nah, man, I'm in the city. I'm like, so either there was somebody upstairs that waited for us to watch the movie to like jet out, or there was just like a black ghost, like a black misted ghost that just ran out of the house. Like, I don't know which one was worse. I was like, it was either somebody about to murder me or there's a ghost in this house. No, that was because I always think about that one because there was like 5 people there and all of us seen the same thing. We were like, what the hell was that? But there was so many things like that in this house, man. I love paranormal. I can sit here for hours. We can have a whole nother podcast talking about ghost stories and stuff. I can be honest with you.
But having that extra, so I've had a lot of weird shit happen. Just when I was by myself, and a lot of that stuff, you can. I always try to do like the Occam's razor, right? Like the simplest explanations, usually, the right one. I start.
Yeah, that's
there,
what I go for usually.
But then if I reach a point where I've run out of ideas or whatever, I'm open to it being something like there's no way we know everything there is to know about the universe and the way things work or whatever. Not. And so I'm totally open to the idea of there just being weird shit happen. The best ones, though, for me, are when there are other people because then it really when either they saw the same thing or whatever. Like, I think the ones I'll save the big one for last here, but like 2 of the ones that I remember mentioning to you were in when Heather and I lived in Staten Island. So literally the day we moved in that night. I don't think I ever told you this. It turns out that we lived right near a freaking cemetery. The cemetery was right behind our neighbors on like the other side of the street. I don't know how we never knew this, but it was like maybe that had something to do with all the weird shit that happened. But I remember we were sitting upstairs on the couch on the 2nd level of the duplex, and we heard the door open downstairs, like all the way downstairs. So we just assumed it was the landlord coming up because you could hear footsteps coming up. And we kept shouting out and nobody was responding. So then I started to get concerned that somebody like broke in or whatever. And I could hear the stairs creaking on the way up to the 1st level landing. And then the hair stood up on my body when I started hearing footsteps coming up the stairs to where we were. And I was like, oh, fuck, like I got nowhere to go, And it was the weirdest thing because we kept hearing the sound of, somebody coming up the stairs and we kind of felt a change in the air. And then there was like nothing. So it was almost like somebody was just kind of like standing there checking us out. But that place, I agree, man. Like, and then
so there's no door on the top of the stairs.
Nope,
like
no, it was an open.
Oh
like,
my god!
I'm
thinking there was like a door or something.
No, and then the weird thing was a couple years later when we had Tim, he was sitting playing, like he had his like cars lined up or whatever, and all of a sudden he just stops what he's doing. He looks up, and I'm watching him. He's following something across the ceiling, and I'm looking around like there's nothing, man. He points halfway across and starts giggling and follows whatever it was that he saw with his finger all the way to the other end of the room, and then goes back to playing. And I was just like, holy shit, man. But the end cap was,
I definitely think kids see things a lot. I feel like that veil isn't lifted yet. They just see
Right.
see everything.
Exactly. And the funny thing was, I told you that was the first night Heather and I were there. On our last night in the house, she had already left to come here to Jersey to do stuff. And my buddies from Brooklyn that were helping us move had stayed over the night before. And one of them I would say is somewhat skeptical. You know, he's not a big like ghost guy or whatever. And I woke up the next
That's
day.
the best when they start getting scared,
Yeah.
because then it's like, now you know it's real.
I woke up the next day and he was like pissy with me. And I'm like, you know, we were all tired and nobody wanted to move. It was like July 1st, I think. So we're all fucking hot. And I'm like, dude, what's your problem? Like, and he's like, oh, you know, I didn't think you would play a practical joke like that on me. I'm here to help. And I was just so lost. Like, what are you talking about? And it turns out that in the middle of the night, he heard like rustling and he looks up and he saw somebody wearing a hat, like a brimmed hat, like round brim hat, step out from behind this column that was in the middle of the room and just walk over and stand at the foot of where he was sleeping. So he thought it was me messing with him, which, to be fair, I mean, that tracks. I definitely could have done that, but it wasn't me. And he said that all of a sudden it just like, then it started walking backwards and it just dissipated into like black, like mist or whatever.
You know what's crazy is, so I've been listening to this Belief Hole podcast, which if you're into paranormal stuff, I got a lot, like this last month, man, I've probably listened to, I don't know, 100 episodes at this point. And it's funny that you say that, because there's encounters like that all over the world, because they basically tell listeners, send in their stories, and they tell the best ones and stuff, which I love. I love all that, because you get all these different stories from all over the world. And one of the biggest ones is called Hat Man, like just like you just explained.
Oh,
that's like a worldwide experience of people that wake up and there's a black shadow in a hat, and they call it the Hat Man. There's a whole episode of it that I just listened to. It's so funny that you just told me that,
dude.
Man.
That made the hair stand up on my neck too. Holy crap.
That's a worldwide experience that people wake up and people think that it's a what's it called, sleep.
Like night terrors or something.
I tell you, not night terrors. I forgot the name of it. But I mean, how could so many people see the same?
Oh, or like
thing?
sleep.
It's definitely, to me, is an interdimensional being or something, right?
Like sleep,
just messing with people.
So sleep paralysis.
Sleep paralysis. Yeah. That's what it is.
So I've had that happen, and it is the scariest fucking feeling, man, dude.
It's my worst fear.
And it's my mistake, because I really need to have like a blackout room in the bedroom, because when there's light, I've noticed it happens more. Like, I know that's not paranormal when that happens, because it's only when I'm like super stressed.
Oh, who knows? It might be.
It might be. You never know, man.
You never know.
And,
you really never know, man.
But I don't know if you remember this, like so I don't know. I've bandied about the idea of like throwing this story out in a podcast episode. I didn't know if I wanted to do one dedicated just to like the weird shit that happened to me. Because I remember that conversation where we were sort of like swapping, you know, supernatural war stories.
My favorite kind of conversation. Well, one of my favorite kind of the conversation when people start talking about like ghosts and UFOs and stuff like that. I can talk for hours about it.
Well,
so I love it.
I don't know if you remember this one, but hands down, the weirdest fucking thing that I've ever had happen. I'm just checking the microphone. Okay. The weirdest thing that I've ever had happen. And this was one of those things where if I didn't have someone else there with me, I don't know that I would have believed it. I don't know if you remember me telling you about this, but one night we were, and again, this was like late August, September, or something like that, probably around like 2000. My buddy was driving us out to Starbucks over on Cross Bay Boulevard, because it was the only Starbucks in like, you know, the Tri-Borough area. And I just happened to look over as we were going over. There's like a big stretch just past where the riding academy is on the Belt Parkway, before you get to like Starrett City out that way. And I just happened to look over to the right, and I saw this girl in a pink dress just standing like in the weeds or whatever it was. And I just watched her kind of like walk backwards into it. And I was just
God.
well, all right, that's fucking terrifying.
No.
And
she's walking backwards?
Yeah, like she stood there and walked backwards, right?
And just walked into the...
and walked backwards.
Yeah, that's even worse.
Which was weird enough. But then that night I had...
It's weird enough.
Yeah, well, so I kept having this recurring dream for like 4 or 5 nights after that of her. It was like one of those things that slowly revealed itself more and more. And it was with her with like water. And I just kept seeing water and water, and I felt like it was like she drowned somehow, right? And it was just something that was just really like nagging at me. I couldn't shake it. It was just so eerie and whatnot. Well, this one time, again, about a week later now, the other guy that was in the van with us and I took our bikes over to, again, it was just like a weird feeling. Like I just kept being drawn to this one specific spot. This place was further out. This was over by where the mini golf is over on Flatbush. I don't even know if it's still there, but
yeah, it's still there.
For whatever reason, we went out to Flatbush. We took Avenue U to Flatbush, and then we rode over to this section. And the only way I could describe it was just this like unbelievable like feeling of like dread and like being drawn like magnetically to this place. And so we threw the bikes into the weeds and we walked into it. And again, from the street side, like it looked like you know what it's like over by the beach where it's like the big reeds with like it looks like wheat basically.
Yeah.
And so we go into this thinking it's just a full field, and we get about 8 or 10 feet in, and it had been completely scorched. So from the inside, it was all burned to the ground. There's one white tree in the middle of this area, and I was just like, oh, fuck. Like, all right, I guess that's worth checking out. And so I go to check out the tree, and my buddy, I don't know where he went. He went somewhere else. And all of a sudden, I just had this like, this really bad feeling that something was like behind me, like chasing after me, right? So I fucking book it for this tree. I get there, and the second, like, it felt like something out of like Game of Thrones, right? Where like the White Walkers were like coming after me or whatever. And so I get to this tree, and the second I touched the trunk, like that feeling went away. And I was just like, all right, I'm safe from whatever the hell that was. And I looked to the left, and I don't know if you remember this part, because this was the part that still freaks me out to this day. I turned to the left, and there was like a shack off in the background. And I called my buddy James over. He comes over. I'm like, dude, are you seeing that? He says, yeah. So of course we have to go check it out. We go over there. There was like a little campfire set up with like a chair and like, you know, hobo garbage. Like we'd see that from time to time in the weeds, right? Yeah. So we see all this shit. And again, there's like this structure. I don't know what it was. I think it was some kind of like storage shack or whatever it was, but there was a window. And I walk over to the window and I look in, and there's clothes and shit like spread out. But that fucking dress that the girl was wearing was hanging like over by the bed. I looked at my friend. He went over. He saw it. We fucking took off out of there like lightning was striking our asses, right? Saturday night that week, we're back with our buddy. We're driving past. We're telling him about what happened, and he doesn't believe us or whatever. Now I forgot. The first time I saw the girl, she was just standing there, right? So she was just standing in the weeds, which was creepier. This time I saw her again, and this time she started walking backwards into it. And it was almost like the way I've sort of reconciled it for myself was something happened to somebody. I don't know if they drowned or whatever the hell it was. And it was just one of those things where like she just kind of had to tell her story to somebody. And for whatever reason, it was me. And I never saw her again, never saw anything like that again. But after that moment where I watched her sort of like fade back into the weeds, it was like a feeling change inside of me where it was just like, okay, like this is done now, you know? And like, it was such a weird week, man. But like,
dude, that's like next level. That's like you can make a short story out of that.
That's the problem.
Crazy.
In the intervening years, I don't tell that story often because of that exact reason. People smile and they're like, "Oh yeah, you know, I'm sure that really happened." And if it wasn't for my friend James being there, you know, I mean, I'm sure I would have thought that it was just an imagination thing. But like,
dude, I believe it. I believe it.
It was crazy.
She's probably trying to give you a message, or maybe just that's insane.
Yeah. So I don't know.
That's deep. That's crazy.
Well, and I remember
you
too,
know,
like,
backing up into the bushes for me, I would have been like, yeah. that's it.
Well, I had like a freak out flashback because my daughter was wearing this dress one time. She had to have been like 4 or 5, and it was like almost down. It was down past her knees, and she just had super long hair at the time. And I was like, holy shit, she looks like the girl from The Ring because she had like flipped it forward and was covering her face. So I took her out to the woods in the back and did like a photo shoot. She had no idea, you know, what it looked like or what it was referencing. But those are some of my favorite pictures. I got to put them up somehow now that it's Halloween season. But like, yeah, man, I love that creepy shit. And with like aliens and stuff.
Me too. Aliens, man, everything. I've been getting into Sasquatch and anything kind of paranormal like that. I'm telling you, this podcast I've been listening to is just reopened like all these things to me. I love it.
So we're used to like different things, right? So like Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Yeti, whatever you want to call it. Like the fact that it's on multiple continents and there's just so many different things like that lends credence to it for me. You know what I mean?
I've seen a theory that they evolved alongside us, and that's exactly like, so they basically evolved from the same thing we did. and that they evolve more with nature, and that though they're like interdimensional kind of where they can slip in and out of reality, or this dimension. So that would make complete sense to me that like some people, they see them and then they're gone, and then they hear they're not. I love all that stuff, man. I know people probably would hear this and be like, "Ah, it's so stupid. Why would you?" But it's like anything's possible in this life. Dude.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, I think there's a really stark dividing line, right, between people like us who are interested in it and open to it, and people who
you have to be open
who live by
it too.
it.
If you shut it out, I think, I don't know. I feel like you have to be a little open to it to experience certain things.
Right, but I think
I definitely.
I think the problem though, dude, is when you start to live your life by it, right? Like that,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Tom
it's definitely a
DeLonge from Blink-182, right? Like he's a deep diver there. But it's funny,
He's a deep dive.
with the alien stuff. I just caught a clip from one of Joe Rogan's podcasts. I don't remember who the guest was, but they were talking about the Fourth Kind, which I will not fucking watch, dude. That of all the horror movies, I don't think I could stomach.
Yeah, what's like with the guy with the glasses, right?
I think so. It's
Was
where
he on
this
there?
girl gets abducted, and it's not. It's kind of like a Blair Witch Project, like found footagey sort of thing.
Oh, okay. It's not a documentary.
No, it's
Oh, I think I
posed
know what
as a
you're talking about.
documentary, but then there's also other clips. So there's real footage from interviews.
Yeah,
with this
yeah,
woman.
yeah. Is that when the mouth opens up really, really wide? Yeah, I've seen that.
So
yeah.
there's all
It's a good
kinds
movie.
of weird shit. And what Joe Rogan and his guests were talking about, it was basically how when we sleep, there's things that happen in our brain, like dreaming, right? That we still don't understand. We still can't explain from a scientific standpoint. And what Joe Rogan threw out there, which blew my mind, was like, what if when we sleep, we're opening ourselves like a channel or a portal to some interdimensional space or something else out there? And what if
I believe it.
these creatures, right, the Greys or whatever you want to call them, like the aliens, what if that's where they live and they're able, like, so in other words, the people who are claiming to be abducted, like maybe they're not physically being attacked here in our, realm or whatever, but it's happening in their minds, like legitimately by the creatures or beings or whatever that can actually traverse that space. However he explained it, like, I was just like, wow.
Who was the
like,
guest on it? It wasn't Bob Lazar, was it?
Oh, that
Do you know the story of Bob
Lazar?
Lazar? He apparently he was in Area 51 and was working on like spaceships, alien spaceships and stuff. You ever hear his story?
No,
I think that episode is on YouTube if you want to check that out. That's a really good episode if you want to get into aliens and stuff. But he has that's like I'll listen to Joe Rogan. I don't listen to every episode, but like when he has something like that on, man, I love that.
Yeah, so this one,
Aliens and all that.
I don't think it was. I don't think it was a guest that was focused on it. I think they were talking about horror.
Because he always brings it up.
It was somebody. They were either talking about horror movies or talking about maybe it was talking about aliens, but I don't think that was like the guest's like background or whatever. I think it was just something that happened to pop up. I don't even know. Like, dude, my wife goofs on me because I have like 90 tabs open on Chrome on my iPad because I'll find like little video clips like that or whatever, and I'll just toss it aside because like my brain runs a million miles an hour from the moment I wake up until I go to bed.
Yeah, I'm starting to think maybe I have ADHD or something like that.
Oh, my God.
I'm working on 3 paintings at a time. I'm doing this, I'm jumping into that. Maybe it's just the way of like, maybe it's everybody with phones and there's so many different things to do now. Maybe all of us are getting like that.
But I think
maybe I'm like undiagnosed ADHD.
But I'm noticing with some of my friends that are more creatively oriented, right? Like one's a poet, then you're a visual artist, I'm a writer. Like I think it's what drives us. Like I don't know that we can slow it down at all.
I wouldn't change it. So. I wouldn't change it. Definitely not. It drives me crazy sometimes.
Oh yeah.
But it definitely helps. I feel like it helps you in some way, right? I think it definitely wouldn't change that about myself. I don't think.
So, dude, this was so much fun, man. We covered a lot of ground.
Yeah, I had a great time. This is awesome, man. We got to do this again, honestly.
Absolutely. And I mean, we can definitely share some more supernatural war stories.
Oh, man, I have so many of them.
No, I love it.
Yeah.
So, in terms of where people can get in touch with you, check out your work, and then maybe if you have anything, I mean, I feel like we kind of covered what you're working on coming up, but if you wanted to just sort of like condense it and summarize it, like where people can find your work and what you've got coming up, I think that'd be a great way to close out.
So yeah, like I said, right now I'm October. I mostly just work on horror stuff. I've been working on horror stuff a lot otherwise. But right now, I have the Vecna piece I'm working on, and I'm about to post next week. I have a few paintings actually. Killer Clowns painting. I just finished a from Dusk Till Dawn, which is one of my favorite vampire movies.
Oh,
Painting. So next few weeks, if you're into horror, give me a follow. You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, pretty much all platforms at jensenartwork.com, or you can go to my website, anthonyjensen.com, which I'm trying to update right now. And
Jensen, right?
yeah, Jensen artwork. And yeah, I think, within the next, like I mentioned, I'm gonna start I have a YouTube going, but I just really post like shorts and stuff. I'm gonna be posting like long form. Actually, this month is gonna be the month with the Vecna piece that I'm gonna be posting long form, like maybe 5 to 10 minute videos showing my process and inspirations and all that cool stuff, which I don't have that much time with the shorter, minute long videos. I kind of rush them through. So the next step is long form, like YouTube videos. So if you're into that, follow me on YouTube. End of this month, I'll be posting something with the Vecna piece.
I think
kind
that's
of deep diving into it.
yeah, I think that's perfect timing for it too, because I know for me, like when I get into certain, YouTube platforms, content creators rather, like if I'm into their music or their art or their whatever it happens to be, like it is cool to kind of get like the curtain drawn back, right, and see like what their process is like and learn.
That's
about
what I
it.
kind
So
of want to do with the YouTube, and that's why I wanted to really do this with you, try to get more comfortable talking and being on camera, because I have all these videos, but it's all just my hand, right? This is my hand painting and stuff. So I want to get more used to talking about the process and what inspires me, and that's can't really do that much on TikTok. I guess you could to an extent, but I figure like YouTube is a little bit better of a place to go deeper into that stuff and talk about it a little more. And maybe I'll probably post like short forms of it on TikTok just to get people there. But yeah, I think YouTube's going to be pretty big for me in the future, I think.
yeah,
Hopefully.
well, the short
Hopefully it
form
all works out.
the short form stuff caters directly to people's lacks of attention spans, right? So you already got
Yeah.
the hard part done. I think that's
I
what
feel like I can't go much further with it. Like I love doing it. But I feel like the next step is long form, really getting into it and showing the full process, because people don't even know like exactly how these things are made. And I feel like it's a good place to show everybody, right? And on YouTube.
Yeah, and if people want to purchase any of your work, whether it's prints
Mhm.
or whatever, where do they do that?
That's on Etsy. I'm working on making a Shopify pretty soon, but that'll be on my website. But probably for the rest of the month is going to be probably the rest of the month or two is on Etsy. Same thing, Jensen Artwork. That's linked on my Instagram. Everything is linked on my Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. You go to one spot, you can basically find everything on my link tree there.
Awesome, man. Well, dude, thanks so much for taking the time. It's always a good time
No,
to
thank you,
talk.
man. This was awesome. This went by so quick. I feel like we have to do another one at some point, right?
I would love
Maybe,
to, and I think
the year's end, we'll get another one in.
I think we did our creative people, our society proud here, because I think most people think of painters and writers as being really like introverted, quiet.
Oh
And,
man, I am so introverted. I was so worried that I was, gonna sound stupid or something, but
no, but that's what I mean.
I had such a great time, dude. This is awesome.
Yeah, no, and that's my favorite part of doing the podcast with people that I know, is getting to share like, the fun that I have having these conversations and stuff. Because when we were working together, more frequently, like we were having these all the time, over the phone.
Yeah,
So
on the
this is
phone.
cool.
I was thinking of that. That's this felt. It was just we would just have like two. I remember like having like 2 hour conversation on the phone about a project coming up, and I was like, how the hell did 2 hours go by? And that's exactly what happened here, pretty much.
Right. Yeah, and the
You're
best
rearing in 2 hours, I think, right? It's crazy.
Yeah, and the best part of that too was like so much of the end product, like what we actually wound up finishing up with our collaboration projects, really came from those conversations. Because I would have one idea and I would throw it out to you, and then all of a sudden it just became something so much cooler than I could have imagined. So, and for what it's worth, if I haven't said it enough, I so appreciate you taking the time. I'm always in awe.
No, man, I appreciate you having me on here and talking to me about all this cool stuff, man. I had a great time. It was great.
But I appreciate you working with me and taking the time to create that stuff for me, because like, again, like I see the stuff that you're making and I just shake my head. I'm like, holy shit. Like, I can't believe that, I got to work with this guy. And, I have some stuff like, again, the original stuff is just, it's unbelievable. And that's something I'm really excited to be sharing on my YouTube and maybe TikTok sometime soon, is all those like character designs and stuff you did for the Cosmogonia books. So cool stuff coming up for both of us, I think. But, once again, thanks to Anthony Jensen from Jensen Artwork for taking time to talk with us today. And thank you to everybody listening wherever and whenever you are.